Satnam, yogis and yoginis, hello and welcome back to the stream. Today we're going to continue with the course on sounds. The sounds that we are going to be doing today is the V and the W. V and W. Hold on a second. Yes. So Va and Wa. And we are following the, the direction of the chakras going upwards. We did last week the sound L, La, and today we will be advancing. But before we move into the V and W, let's talk a little bit about the some comments, particularly one comment that we got in the channel on the letter L. So let's read the comment from Sohail. Thank you very much for writing. I appreciate every contribution to these videos. It helps. And Sohail speaks Farsi, and he says, Farsi language is deeply rooted in Proto-Indo-European language, like many other languages, but it's been also strongly under the influence of Arabic language, which in turn is rooted in Proto-Afro-Asiatic. Therefore, Farsi has become a combination of both and contains many Arabic words, which among them, Allah is the most important and powerful and simply means the God. Also from the book Vigyan Vairava Tantra, in which Shiva introduces 112 techniques to achieve liberation, one of them is uttering a word that ends in La, or just simply the syllable La. So we were reflecting the last video how La is the sound of the first chakra. There we go. And so that is charging the first chakra. The first chakra is associated to the element of earth. So I find it very interesting, and this is connecting from the perspective of Karam Kriya. The element of earth is associated to first chakra, number 1, and the sound L associated to the 1 and 9, actually, the whole axis 1 and 9. And we find this sound very prevalent, very present in the language of Arabic and also in Farsi, therefore, because of the influence of the Arabic language into Farsi. And it's very interesting because if you think about the Muslim religion and the Arabic language, they are deeply rooted in the desert. They are born in the desert, and they have this influence from the life in the desert. I believe even in the Arabic language there's lots of words which are associated to life in the desert, to the different states of the weather over there and the dryness, and the words for the different, I don't know, camels and things like that. I imagine there's a lot of language around the life in the desert which we would not have in English. So this association between the religion and the language to the energy of the desert, the sand, and that's 1 and 9. And then you have the most important word, Allah. Yeah, Allah, which is the L sound, and double L, yeah, Allah, yeah, and that L sound associated to the 1 and the 9. And the 9, we had found that is very connected to the 1 and the 9. Actually, the 9 and 8, 9, 10, yeah, going towards the 10. So that makes a lot of sense. From the perspective of Sanskrit, I'm not gonna say too many words from Sanskrit about this, but it's interesting that Lohita, I think it's the color red, very, very blood colored, like a reddish color. And Laghu means light, something that is light. We were talking about lightness in the sense of something like very less heavy, and lightness in the sense of light, like from the sun. So both aspects would be contained within the L sound of the 9, 8, 9, 10, yeah, going towards the 10. And the lightness quality in Sanskrit, we call it Laghu. So that's also interesting. That starts with the L. So very interesting. Anybody who has more input into these sounds, please bring us. If you have specific language that you speak and is different from the ones that we are talking about, also please bring it in, and we bring it together. And today we will do V and W. So let's go straight into that, and we are following the path of the chakras. So we were in Lam, now we're going to go to Vam. And we're going to do the W as well because V and Wa, they are very connected. Even when you see Wahuru, 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 it sounds very similar. And sometimes you will hear it Wa, 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 like almost like a V, but sometimes it's more Wa, Wahuru. So at the end is how you pronounce it, not really how you write it, but the two sounds of V and W are going to be very connected. And so we will explore both sounds, even though they are two different sounds and they have their particular differences. But regarding the similarity of them is going to be reflected also in the meaning, particularly in the numbers that I find that they are most associated to these two. So let's start with the V. V, 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 V. Let's try to do this sound. V, V, V. So this sound is called voiced labiodental fricative. We already explored in the last video that the voiced sounds were those in which the vocal folds are vibrating. And fricative means that it's also going to be, it's going to go through a narrow passage. Yeah? It's a very narrow passage. It says also labiodental because it's between the teeth and the lip. Labio means lip. So teeth and lip, v, 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 small passage, fricative, v, voiced because it vibrates. That's the technical term to it, but why am I talking about the technical term? Because those three qualities are very important to the meaning that we associate to this sound. So let's start with the fricative aspect, the fact that it's going through a small passage. V, v. You can feel it's a small passage and the air has to go through. So this is going to be reflected in many words which are talking about some small passage and something having to go through it. And especially it's going in a very controlled way. Yeah, it's not, it's controlled. It's not explosive like the P or a different sound, but it's very regulated. And so when we have a small passage and something that controls the flow of something through that passage, that's what we call a valve in English, right? Valve, which has a double V at the beginning and at the end, valve. So a valve is something that closes and controls. And to me, already just that letter, also the way we write them has some meaning, yeah? In the case of the W, in the V, we have this letter, and it's already drawing. There is something, and there is some kind of passage here. You can almost see, like the other side of the V, like there is something that has to go through. The sound through is th. We will see the th later on. A very, very interesting sound, because through also has to go through a passage. But we will see that's a different sound. But yeah, valve is the thing that controls. Yeah, it's like a little. You can see it like this. Yeah. Like a something that you turn to regulate how much flow goes through it. Yeah. And flow ends with W, and we will see about the W in a moment. So valve, a valve. Now I'm focusing a lot in one word, valve, but many of them are going to be reflecting this going through a small passage. For example, a vein. Yeah, vein, the blood has to flow through it. A vent. Now is the air that passes through. A veil with the little holes. The air also passes through the veil. Voice by itself is something that passes through the throat, and the throat is like a small passage. A vase where we put the flowers, yeah, it has a very narrow passage and very narrow head, like the bottleneck of the vase. If it's too wide, the flowers fall. It has to be narrow so that the flower stays tall. A view is like seeing something through something, yeah, through the glass. You're looking out, yeah, and and also this going through a small passage, it can be forced and it can be against the will of something. Yeah, so it's like a violation. Yeah, violate or invade. Yeah, invade doesn't start with the V, starts with in. That's a particular thing, but you can see the V as reflecting this quality of going through. So when it's going through this violet, it can be violent. It can be as a form of vengeance. It can be also other things that are taken by force, yeah, or passing through with force. A vandal, yeah, or other words which start with V and reflect this violent and quality of taking by force could be vanquish, yeah, vitriol, vex, and venom. They are quite negative words, but remember that, okay, as you may be already intuiting which numbers we are coming upon here. Passing through a small passage is the number 5. This is the 5 here. But, well, what is on both sides of the 5? This is almost like the number 8. You can see, yeah, like an hourglass. There is the empty part and there is the full part. And you could argue whether it's going this way or it's going that way. The sound V implies going out, V. As a difference with other sounds will be more about going in. But when it goes out, you could feel that it's going in toward the 8, but you can also see that is reflecting about the 2, because the 2 is the empty space. So, and this is the negative mind, so it's connected to the negativity of it. Yeah, this toxic, this vitriol, venom, and vanquish and vex. This is more like a very negative side of this passing through this passage. Yeah. Okay. I'm kind of jumping up and down a little bit. We started from here, from passing through a little passage of the 5. Let's say a few more things about this 5, because we're going to see that the V goes from the 2 to the 8, passing through the 5. It's all connected. Right in the middle with the 5th chakra, we have the sound of our voice. That's basic, yeah? We also have the vocal cords. We have the vowels, and we have volume, and we have vibration, yeah? Voice is no more than vibration. And to be verbal, yeah? Verbs and verses. So the V is very connected to this thing that is happening in the throat that gives us the capacity to speak, which is about vibrating something out of ourselves. Yeah, we have something in and we are bringing it out. So there is a passing through the passage to get it out. Now, something about the number 8 is the prana. Yeah, is about the pranic force, life force, and it's about life. 8 and 2 and 8 are connected to life and death. And this flow that we are talking about is not a flow of anything. There is a lot of this flow connected to life and death. Yeah, I mentioned this, what were these words? The vanquish, yeah, that's remove life. Yeah, that's almost like death. It's connected. Venom, vitriol, these are connected to death. Yeah, violent, vengeance, violating. Yeah. And also violating is connected to sexuality. You could feel it, yeah, like violence in that, penetrating through, yeah. And that's connected to the 2 and the 8 as well, the sexuality. 2 and 8 is this flow of prana, of life, of vital force, and you can see it in the empty side, you can see it in the full side. So on the full side, you can also see how the V becomes vitality. It becomes vivid and vigor. It becomes vibrant and virile and vivacious. Yeah? So there is this passing through is not just going into the empty, but it's also going into the full. And we can see both aspects linked to the sound of V. You can see it, the vital force, you can find it in nature. 2 and 8 is the nature world. So there is vines and there is verdant and vegetables and velvet and well, in Spanish, green, verde. Yeah, I think it was a coincidence that I used the color green, but it kind of reflects nature. So maybe I picked it up for a reason, yeah? So it's greenish. So that's about the life force. That's about prana. One other reflection of prana is money. Yeah, money is some value, something that we give value. And look, prana determines how much energy you have. So if you have enough prana, you can walk 100 kilometers. Well, in a way, money allows you to buy petrol, which is a form of food. Yeah, it's prana for the car, and it allows you to maybe more money. You can buy more petrol to go 100 kilometers. So there is this connection between prana within us and the value of money. And we will see that many V words are connected to this value, like value and something that is valor and verify and valid and virtue and what was that? Venerable and victory. So these are things that have value, that we give value to. It's not just about money, but it's about the value that we give to these things. And it's about having gone through the passage and reaching the other side. Yeah, you can be the vanquished or you can be the victor. So you are the one who has been oppressed on this side, or you are the one with the power. It's a power dynamic here between the 2 and the 8, and you can see both sides are reflected within the B. But yeah, if we go towards the B, we are going more towards the victory. We are going more towards the virtue and the valor, which, virtues and valors are more about 9 and 10. They are higher numbers, yeah? But we are going up. This is the idea that we are going into this higher meaning of the sound, yeah? So the V is the flow, and there is a flow from one side to another, but there is also about a container that allows that flow, yeah, and the flow is venting out. So we have a vessel or a vase, I mentioned already, but also other words with V reflect this quality of containing, like a vault or a vent, a vessel, a vestibule, a vehicle. And so they are containing, yeah? So this flowing through might be into a place that is being contained, like a vase. And I mentioned about the value and about as the money, and I mentioned about the value as the virtue. You can see other qualities of V that are connected to not only having this value, but also wanting to show it. Maybe that's why the V is coming out. Yeah, it's going outwards. So there is the vanity, yeah, to be vain. And vestments, what you put on is to show outside. And the vogue, and what you value is the visuals, how it is being seen. Yeah. And veneer as well. So it's about what you show outside. Now, when we talk about what you show outside, you will be thinking, well, but that's number 3, isn't it? Well, more 7 actually. But we are in a different axis. We're not in the 2 and 8. But that's the thing. It's about you have to get in tune of the feeling of the sound and see where is that taking you. So yeah, we are going through something in order to project something out. So maybe we are moving from the 2 to the 3, or from the 8 to the 7. Now, of course, this is, it's very, very complex. To try to explore a sound and associate just one number is extremely complex. And I venture to guess that what's happening is that there is some sort of sequence. Yeah, so some sounds are going to be doing a certain sequence. They are taking you somewhere else. And like this vanity thing, yeah, or this vogue, or these vestments, yeah, they are doing some sort of sequence in which we go from this V that is passing through and into showing out. So it's going from the 2 and the 8 to the 3 and the 7. Now, whether that's part of higher sequence, of a larger sequence, or that's like from the 8 to the 7, and we get trapped into the 8 and the 7, we don't know just yet, just from analyzing one sound. But We know that the 2 and the 3 are the numbers that are more linked together. And it's not surprising that the 8 and the 7 are going to be also very connected within this way that we make the sound. So when we do the V and we are exploring the virtue, or on the other side comes the ego and wants to show the virtue, show the value, and there is the vanity. Yeah, so that's how the ego mind captures something and wants to turn it and show it out. Remember, virtue is not 8, it's 9, yes? But this 8 is but this value, yeah, that goes through. And again, value could be different things, but I'm referring to this prana, yeah? So something is flowing out, but that when you flow things out, that could also mean that, sorry, hold on. Okay. When something is flowing out, then something is emptied. So we are getting something empty out of that. And the V, the valve, allows for emptying things. And probably the emptiness is more inside, because we are doing the sound out, V. So the emptiness is more within. And we have the void, and the vanish, and the vacant, and vacate, vacancy, vacuum, vagueness, and vapor. Interesting, eh? So that's going very much into the 2. And we will see when we get to the letter B that there is some things in common with the letter B, in that whenever there is some dualistic nature, whenever there is 2 aspects to something, the letter B tends to go towards the lower, the lesser side. Yeah, but it's like a burden, like the basement, like the beggar. We will see this when we get to the letter B. The V is kind of similar, but the letter B is more passive, while the V is more active. And it can be active in the sense that it's also obeying something. Yeah, it's in reference to something higher, and it's trying to be subservient to that thing higher. Remember, the 2 and 8 is the pole of power. So the 2 will be serving the 8. And you can see in one of the virtues of number 2 is obedience. Yeah. So again, the B of obedience is there. But we're going to see this in the number 2 as well, in the sense of service and submission. We're going to see this as the vassal, or the valet, or the servant. Yeah. Now again, the ser is before, but the V is here. We will see it in the slave as well. The V is there, but there is going to be other letters in between. Yeah, novice as well, servile. But starting with the V, we'll see the vows, the volunteer, the verdict in the service of the law, vines, and vice, like viceroy or vice president, yeah, in the service of somebody higher, so serving somebody higher. Now, service is number 4, but this is more like the obedient, the one who is loyal and is obedient to serve something higher. But the very word serve also has the letter B. So again, this is one of those things that there might be a sequence here. Yeah, because service is number 4, and number 2 can be obedience, and you need to obey in order to serve. 2, 4. Yeah, that the sequence is 2, 4, 1, 3. So it could be that the service is as a consequence of the obedience. And the obedience starts with a B, obedience. The B, we will see the connection with the number 2 as well. But from the perspective of the V, that has to be there as well in order to serve. Yeah, so serving has to have that. And serving starts with the S, which we have already explored because of the Kundalini. And the serpent energy was also number 2. So the V in serve, it seems to imply that it's going into the 4, like volunteering. Yeah, it's also number 4 into the service. Yeah, but it's later in the word. It's not at the beginning of the word. So we cannot take it just isolated, and say, oh, V is number 4, because it's later within the word. It's having an influence inside the word more than in the origin. If you look at the words that start with the B, it's more about the making vows, which is about obedience, or the vassal. The vassal is the one who receives the power from the other. Yeah, the vice president receives the power from the president. So when it starts with V, we are more into the two. But when it's in the middle of the word, it can be talking about the quality of the two that allows you to get to the four. Yeah, like being obedient is necessary to serve. Yeah, to be servile, or a conveyor, convey something like that. So that's when V is in the middle of the word. What happens with V when it's at the end of the word? Well, verbs. Yeah, we have verbs here, which are in a way very possessive. Now, there is this concept of flow. If there is a concept of flow, there is a question of who possesses the flow, who has it. Yeah, and to the victor goes the spoils, they say, no? And the vanquished loses everything. So who is going to be possessing this? The vassal, who is going to possess the power, right? Who is possessing this? Well, is the one who have. Yeah, the one who has. Yeah, but in the infinitive, the verb will be to have, or to crave, or to save, or to shelf. Yeah, these are verbs which contain the V at the end. Shelf, yeah, is to save it for later on. This is reflecting the nature of the 2 and the 8, saving it for another season. And it reflects some sort of attachment to things. Yeah, 2 and 8 is also about attachment. So you are attached to something that you have, or that you don't have but you want it, you crave it. Yeah, and if you finally have it, now you save it. Yeah, and you shelve it. So you see how it's connected in that way. But it can also be something that you have and somebody doesn't have, and therefore you can give. Yeah, so you see, it's about the having and it's about the giving. And love as well, yeah? And again, love would be number 4, and this would be like a flow from the 2 to the 4. But again, did you notice? In love, it doesn't start with V. The V is in the middle. Actually, in this case, it's at the end. So it starts with the L and then goes into the V, which we have already. We explored love the other day with the L, about light and love. And ending with this V, then there is something that we are giving out. Remember, the V sound is something that we are projecting out. Words which end in V can also describe someone in a very specific relation to something else. Now, we were talking about here, this is in relation to that, yeah? This is obeying this one, like the vice president. So with the V at the end, we have relatives and natives, captives or fugitives. Yeah, it's somebody in relation to something else. That's the duality aspect of the two. So where do we put the V? It's between the 2, the 5, and the 8. In the flow between the 2 and the 8, it can go into the emptiness, it can go into the fullness, it can go out, but then you can get empty by leaving and going out. Something gets vacuum inside and empty, and these 2 and 8 qualities can go into the 3 and the 7 if we become vain from what we have, or we can give it out and go into this 4 and the 6 into the service. So it goes from the 2 to the 4, or from the 2 to the 3, and from the 2 to the 3 gets trapped in the karmic quality of the 2 and the 3, and the 2 to the 4 is more dharmic in the service of. All right, I hope that one is quite clear. And we will carry on now with the W. We're going to go into the W, which actually, since I'm doing drawings, W is a double V. Yeah, it's a double V. So there is like a double quality of this V. Now let's remember, by definition, V is a voiced labiodental fricative. Now the W is a voiced labiovelar approximant. Approximant means it gets close to, but it doesn't close. Fricative is a narrow passage of air. The approximant is that it's close. So wah, 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 wah. But you don't do it with the lips and the teeth. Wah. Even though you're moving the lips, Wa is happening in the velar part of the mouth, in the back part of the mouth. Yeah, velar, up there. So wa, and you can feel it. V, you can feel it going out. V, yeah, and there is this vibration, yeah, of the V, voice sound, yeah, this V coming out. Wa is much more expansive. Wa is much more within. There is this space within that is expanding, and it's a smooth rolling sound, yeah. Wa, which is gonna go into the whatever vowel we have later, yeah. We, wo, wu, wo, ve, wa, vi. It's smooth and rolls into the next. Valor, velor, vi. It's not so smooth because the v is this fricative that is creating friction. Remember the v as a passage, as the valve is constraining, and there is some pressure to pass through. While in the W there is no, that pressure is much more soft and fluidic, yeah? And the lips are rounded, which imply also softer, wo. V. Yeah, the teeth are also yeah, very primal. V. But the lips rounded are much softer. Yeah, I notice myself saying words that are different numbers, like primal, but it's okay. I'm just trying to get into the feeling of what the sound is. Yeah. Okay, so the sound path is in wo is not direct, v, but it's actually bent. Wo. It's more like a round. Yeah, round. Wo. So let's take a wa. You don't see va, wa. Air is coming out. I mean, all the sounds are going to be air coming out. So, of course, all the air, there's always going to be sound coming out of us. But the v is much more pressing out. Wa, it's about the space inside that is created and this roundness. So let's go with this roundness. Weaving. The wind and the waves and wandering, yeah? There's this roundness to the sound, waving, yeah? Wind. Wind doesn't go straight, yeah? It flows, yeah? Wanders. To wrap something is like putting it in a circle, right? A whirl, like a whirlpool. A wiggle. And wind and wobble and waver. Many wo that are wavy sounds, yeah? And you can almost hear it, yeah? It's if I open and then I start pouring the water, there's a wo, yeah? Water, yeah? So it's a very watery sound. It is not just because it starts with W, but it's a watery sound, and water is bubbly, yeah? You will see the connection between W and B as well when we get to the letter B later on, yeah? But it's this wo. It's bubbly and watery sound. So we have words like water and wet and washing and wade, like in the sea, yeah? A well, where we draw water from, or a whirlpool where we get trapped, yeah? In a circle in the water, and weeping, yeah? Crying. So very strong connection to water, while with the V, we were much more connected to air and like a valve and vapor, yeah, that passes through. Vapor can be water vapor, but it's in the air state, not in the liquid state, and passing through, yeah? So how interesting, yeah? The V goes much more into the 4, which is no surprise when we talk about the service, yeah? When it goes to the service. While the W is much more really water. Now, W is, because like the water doesn't go in one direction, it's also uncontrolled. It cannot be tamed. So it's wild, and it's willy, and it's a wraith, a wisp, or a wolf. Yeah? You think of a wolf because it's not tamed, yeah? It's not controlled, it's not like a dog, yeah? It's still wild. It's still, that's another word that's coming up now in a moment, yeah? But it has its own will, yeah? And it's wild. But this sound that is round within the mouth, it's opening up the mouth. Wa. Even we. We. Y is the most open of the vowel, the A. But the E, even we, is much more open than just T, 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 ki, 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 pi, 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 pi. Yeah? We. Do you realize? Try to replicate it, yeah? And you will see how the W opens that sound up. So it's also about widening and opening. So words like wide, or the world, wallow, or welcome. To welcome, yeah, is to open the doors for somebody to come in. And that it goes, when the doors are wide open, then it goes out and wanders all over the world, yeah? The whole wide world, the 3 W's, yeah? The internet, 3 W's. So the whole wide world, yeah? That's what the W wants to go. Wander around the world. And this is fantastic quality, because wandering, it's about, I wonder if... So you see, the letter W in English, it's very associated to questions, yeah? It's where and what and when and why and whether this or that. But it doesn't care about answers. You see, it's not asking questions because it wants answers. It's just wondering. It doesn't want any kind of reasoning. Reasoning is about the R, reason, yeah, and the S to the end. Reason, yeah, that's into the R. We'll see that's into 3 and 7, which is the mind. The W doesn't want to do that. It doesn't care about reasons. It just wants to wonder. I wonder why. I wonder what would happen if... And then the mind, yes, I'll tell you why. I'll explain everything, yeah? Explain, like explode the meaning, yeah? But W doesn't care. It was just wondering, which is very interesting, because the words for questions in other languages will be different. In Spanish, we have a lot of que, y cómo, y cuándo, y quién. It's the K sound, and the K sound is about the knowledge. It starts with K, but you don't pronounce it too much. But the K, we will get to it. Katie, I love the sound K, because it's about something that it's secret, and you need a key to open it. Yeah, you have to be part of the clan to open the key, to open the lock and get the key of the knowledge. Yeah, so that's the letter K, and the questions in Spanish are about ¿qué? ¿Por qué? No, dime quién fue, qué hizo qué. Wow. So it's about the details that are gonna unveil the knowledge. In English, the W is about wondering. I wonder why. Why would this happen? When would we be able to, would you be happy if... It's just much more open. Because in English, you also have the could. But the would is like, would it be possible that, it's wondering about... I love this thing about the questions. And I wonder about other languages, which is the sound of questions, which is how do you approach questions in life? How different is in English and Spanish? And they are both very connected, these languages. I wonder in other languages, like Farsi. Let's see what Sohail says for the next video. Okay, so Margaret Magnus from the W's, she says that it's the most willful of sounds. It has its sound will, and it wants something, it wishes something, and it has whims and woos. Yeah, so it's about wanting something. And then when he wants something, then he's going to wait and worry whether he's going to get it or not. So it's kind of like that. He waits and worries about what is here, but about what was, what will be, or what would be. So again, this is this wandering, right? Which is a way of losing the present. The present is about the 4 and 6. The W, you lose what you have right here, and you're wondering, what was? What will be? What would be? Yeah, you are going out into this fantastical land of wandering, and just like having this beautiful trip. Yeah. But yes, because the number 8 is very. We're gonna see this is the double W, yeah? This is very connected to number 8, as you are seeing, about water and about the circles and about the loops and the widening, yeah? Remember that this 2 and the 8, this is 2 going into the small, 8 is going into the infinite. So that's why you put it next to any sound, like the E, which is the closest vowel, and it expands it. Wee, yeah? Not T, Ki, yeah? T and K, close it and shuts it. The we is the wee, it opens the sound. So the W is going to wonder more about this opening up towards the infinite. So it's very connected to number 8. And the nature, like I was saying, with the number 2 and the 8 within the V, with the V, that was connected to nature. In the W, the nature of this W is female. And you will see how W is about the woman. Yeah, and it's about the wise witches, yeah, and the wives and the widows and also the wenches. So it's a very feminine sound. No wonder, yeah, because it's round, yeah, and it's wah, and it's opening up. This is a very feminine quality, yeah. However, when we have the W at the very end of a word, then it really goes towards the infinity, yeah. W can be the beginning of opening up to what would be, yeah, the wondering. But when you put the W at the end, it's whatever was happening, it's left to infinity. So like, wow, or how, or no, or now. Yeah. Now, even the word now is like something that stretches to infinity, because every instant is a new now. It's a new now. So it's like infinite nows, infinite news, and how and wow, infinite wonder, the wonder of the W. So as much as the V was reflecting this passage between the 2 and the 8 and the movement in the axis with the ego mind twisting it towards the 3 and the 7 with the vanity, or towards the 4 and the 6 for the service, the W pretty much stays in the high. And you can see, even if I draw this kind of 8 here, even the middle point is pointing up, yeah? It's saying, no, we're going to infinity. We're going towards infinity, which you can also see infinity here, yeah? Yeah, in the shape of the W, it contains this infinity. It's going opening up towards infinity. So that's the W for you. So V and W, 2, 5, 8, and 8. And you can already see how the more sounds we begin to know, the more we can link to other sounds and start to notice what's happening within us when we are saying one word. And we go through the different sounds as we move through the word. And there's going to be sequences going through this. But yeah, we are just beginning. We're just started. This is fascinating. I hope you enjoy this. If you do, don't forget to like the video. Sometimes when I watch videos, I forget, and I have it very present. It's good for YouTube to know that people like it. And thank you everyone for commenting. If you have anything to bring from yourself on the V or the W on your language, please do so. I appreciate every comment. I read them all. And then I will, bring it on in the next video. Thank you very much. Till next time, Satnam.